Welcome to We Are Your People, Reclaiming's Oral History. I'm Beverly Frederick, and today I have with me Cybele Rouchat. When I was invited to join the San Francisco Reclaiming Collective in the late 1980s, Cybele was already an active teacher and had already founded the Breath and Body group for women survivors of incest and abuse. She was the only person in Reclaiming doing that type of work at the time, and it was very meaningful and important to me when I joined. We taught together at BC, Michigan, Vermont witch camps. But Cybele had taught for years before I even entered the picture. And I think that she had taught also in Germany and maybe even in that very first camp that
Yeah,
yeah, the very, very
it was
first
the
camp in
second.
1985. It was 1985, yeah.
Yeah. I think there
Um,
was one in the city before.
yes, that wasn't out in the woods, yeah. Right.
Right.
In a collective of activists, Cybele could always be relied on to hold the inner eye. And again, for me, that was an important piece of my entry into Reclaiming and feeling safe and feeling held. There's real power in that meditative, centered, grounded beingness that is Cybele. One of my essential memories, Cybele, of you was at Vermont Witch Camp. It was a full moon, and you were in an aspect, and I can't remember what aspect you were in, but I remember that you were transfixing us all with images of bird murmurations and beautiful fish, fluid synchronized movements of schools of fish. And I remember thinking at the time when I was watching and experiencing and witnessing that this is how it's supposed to be done. I had seen some very theatrical aspecting before that. And I was really, again, really touched. And it really kind of sunk into me, what it was that you brought to the work that we did together and how much I have always appreciated that. So I also want to touch on that you are the person who began and instructed us all on what has come to be known as deep witnessing or dropped and open attention. And so we'll be touching on that, as we talk, as much as you'd like to. And also that Cybele has been a hands-on healer for over 25 years. And she's a Lomi bodyworker, a Shin Jyutsu practitioner, and I would say a priestess of dreams and sacred stones. And she'll tell us more about both of those things a little bit later. Where shall we start, Cybele? Do you want to talk about how you came into Reclaiming, or is there something that you would like to start off with?
Well, I was in a meditation group with Rose, May Dance, and other people that didn't end up in Reclaiming. And I had met Rose through one of the people in that group when I went to her for a psychic reading, which I had never had before. And I was like, this is what I want. And I tried to get her to teach me, and she wouldn't. And she sent me to the Berkeley Psychic Institute, but I didn't go there. I went to an offshoot called Heart Song, which was a better match for me. But we became friends, and she invited me into this group. And then later on, she was living with Star, and there was Reclaiming. And I came into that through her and through somebody I was dating at the time, also, was this such a common entry into Reclaiming. Um, and I was in a Dianic coven before that, and I was initiated before that. But Reclaiming ended up being a better long-time fit for me, not so much because of the God per se, but because of the incredible creativity that we share together and the incredible sort of stone soup. Everybody brings something, we keep changing it up.
Yeah.
And because of Star and her books and her leadership also.
Mm-hmm.
And the incredible, all of you that were around at the same time that I was, and the mix we made,
Yeah.
you know, above and beyond all the blitz and community and who doesn't talk to who for how many years. And I mean, just like families actually, but
Yeah, just like family. Mm-hmm.
yes, exactly. So what would we expect? And because of and in spite of the incredibly arduous process of reaching consensus in a collective, um, yeah, it still feels like my home place in my heart, along with my Buddhist practice, which I don't feel the need to intellectually be able to align and say, you know, how I resolve the self, no self piece, because I don't. I just live in the paradox. So coming into reclaiming, I was involved with doing support for the Diablo Canyon. Um, what's the word? That action, the action, right? Of course, I don't know that word. Action. Um, so my strongest bonds early on were with Rose and Raven and Pandora, I would say. And the people that I met at Vancouver Witch Camp, some of whom have been my best friends, who I like never see, but always talk to,
Yes.
almost never see. Um, yeah, that those camps really set the mandala for my life. And also because I was in San Francisco and reclaiming made a community for me, which I never had before
Mm-hmm.
in my life. And I have never really had since.
Ooh, yeah.
Somehow. Well, I have a theory that it's easier to make community in your early 20s because everybody's so hormonally aroused. And we're all like bees, you know, and trying to make it in your 40s with a chronic illness is not in a rural place is not, unless you have kids that bring you in with other parents, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's how it was for me. And that's how I still hold people in my heart that I haven't seen some people in a really long time, but still very for me. Um, and it was at a Vancouver, I think the second Vancouver camp that when I was in Lomi Bodywork School, I studied with this incredible woman named Wendy Palmer who taught intuitive practice through the body, ascensions, based in Aikido, but not real Aikido. Like we didn't have to fall and
Mm-hmm.
throw each other, but a lot of the other practices we did. And I believe that she developed and taught dropped and open attention, which are centering, and then centering and including
Mm-hmm.
practices. And that came to me as what I guess I first called anchoring for public rituals.
Mm-hmm.
Someone or several people who would sit in an inward stance, simply working with their vertical alignment and then also holding the whole space without following the story or trancing,
Mhm.
and having to kind of return again and again to be able to be deep enough to hold
Mhm.
the space, and which I remember a lot from people practicing it at the spiral dance, which is the biggest ritual we that I have been at, and um, really how challenging and how useful that was in that setting. And it was so beautiful to me that it got really folded into the tradition.
Mhm.
I mean, we're so young, it's really weird to talk about reclaiming as a tradition. But anyhow,
Yeah, it is that though. Trust me that it is.
yes, it is that, I know. And also things turn over so much faster. It's like the news cycle, it's like um yeah. But it's really beautiful to me that the way my heart and my practice has come into the pagan world of which she was not a part.
Mhm.
um
Yeah.
yeah, so I've always been on the contemplative healer and being a extreme introvert sort of person, and having many, many, many health issues myself. I've had lots of inspiration to stay on the healing path
Yes, we have that in common, I think.
forever. Yeah.
Um,
um
that the deep witnessing or anchoring, as you call it, for me, I found it when you started teaching it, I found it really, really
you
valuable
froze.
when I was leading trances, because when I'm leading a trance, I can only go a little bit along with what I'm leading, but mostly I have to stay really
Yeah.
grounded and feeling in my gut and my heart. And then I have to really feel all the people that I'm
Yeah.
leading. And especially when I actually led a trance for that big spiral when there were like 13
Uh-huh.
people. And it was really, really valuable to have that practice to keep coming back to. You've got a hot spotlight on you, following
Mhm.
you around, and you've got a microphone to hold at that ritual. It's a bit of a circus. And yet,
Mhm.
people told me what a great, I had done a great job. And I honestly, I had no idea, but I did know that I kept doing that. I kept doing that drop and open. You want to take everybody with you. You want like
Mhm.
to leave space. And it's a very, very valuable tool for many, many different things, in,
Yeah.
in actions with police on
Mhm.
your back, in a big ritual like that, where technology is really cumbersome and kind of in your way,
Mhm.
and yet you have all these people to reach. Anyway, I'm just very grateful. And so many, as I've already said in the introduction, I'm just so grateful for your influence on our mutual tradition, that you were there when you were there, and that, before me and with me, because it really did change um, how things were done. It changed the perspective.
And
It
it's such a sensate practice.
changed.
And you're such a person, and I'm also such a body person, doing hands-on work and being a sensate type.
Yes.
Um, and since this is an earth religion, makes sense to me, but
Yeah.
I'm biased towards
Yes.
my own type.
Yes. As am I. I
um, I'm just thinking about initiations and the process of being part of people's initiations, and giving challenges for a chunk of about 1 year there. That was really a part of my being in this community. Um, and giving people challenges was a really good way for me to follow my intuition. I remember that I gave really hard, challengeable kind of stories, but that were really, shall we say, effective. And that when I got chronic fatigue. I couldn't do initiations anymore, and I couldn't go to the spiral dance because it was too many people, and also it was on that concrete floor above the water. That
Yes.
was really bad for my energy,
Yes.
and I miss all that. And I couldn't go to camp because it's, camp is, I mean, it got better as everyone got older, but it's so much like all day, all night,
Yeah.
7 days. And
Relentless. It's a relentless schedule.
yeah, and it's almost like I became old way before everybody else did because I had a chronic illness. But um, I hold the memories of those and the experiences of those camp. They were so formative.
Absolutely.
The stories, the 12 wild swans and the Baba Yaga, and um, make stone soup with Carol and everybody in Germany. It was,
Yeah.
yeah.
The
I don't know where to go next.
Well, a question I would do is, what prompted you to begin the Breath and Body group for women survivors of incest and abuse? Were you working with people doing massage with them and then finding that so many people had that? Or was it in the work doing reclaiming classes that you were finding that people had these experiences that they needed to try to somehow integrate and move on with their lives? Or was it a combination of those two things or something else completely that prompted you to begin those groups? Because I know that I know many people who were involved in that,
Yeah,
and many of
yeah,
my students were involved in that um,
yeah.
when I started teaching. So I just know it was really important work. So I'm that's another thing that sort of has gotten forgotten through time. And one of the
Uh-huh.
reasons for doing what I'm doing and interviewing everyone from the old days is reminding people of these big deal things that we all were doing at the time. They were
Yeah,
things.
yeah. Um, well, when I went to Lomi School in 1985, my incest memories came from all the body work that we were practicing on with each other. So that
Yeah.
blew my life out of the water for 2 years. But then, I mean, I was educating myself and I was working with people, starting with people doing body work as well as, I mean, doing emotional work as well as still doing massage. And I just saw how much of it there was around. It was around when the Courage to Heal came out, and people were, there was a wave of it coming out of that kind of childhood sexual abuse coming out of the closet, so to speak. So I just, what I learned from reclaiming what I learned at Lomi School and made a little body of work out of it. And it was very powerful for people. And I I just recently dreamed that my giant notebook from that I still have with all the from that that I dropped in a pool, or there was a flood and it fell into a pool and then it came out and then I pulled it out and then I cried and I cried and I cried that it wasn't still happening,
Yes, right.
because it was such a generative, such a creative offering that was so well received.
Yes, yes.
It was really, and the people are from 1986, 1987 are still my clients, um, which really is a long time ago.
It is a long time, and
So
it's
those are really
super
solid
important work.
relations.
It's super
Yeah,
important work. And a lot of people, it's not easy to do, and it's not, and it usually
no,
takes someone who's been through it to do it. So anyway, that's another important thing to remember as part of our heritage in our tradition. I don't know if that's being done. I think that it is in some places. I'm just not as aware of it because, you and I were working together fairly regularly at that time. So I was very aware,
right,
but I'm not as aware of all the things that are going on because there are so many communities all over the world now doing so many things that it's a little harder to keep track of it if people are not making public announcements on social media. But I'm
Well,
curious.
not through reclaiming that I know. Well, I don't really know about that because I hate Facebook and I can't go there.
That's
So
what
I
I'm saying
don't
to
know a lot of things that are happening, which I sort of don't like, but oh well. Um,
you.
in,
Understand
in
all of that. But what I will say is that putting this up on Facebook, we may get responses from people who are doing it, and
yeah,
they can let us know. And that's one of the
that's
wonderful
cool.
things about this idea of putting it up on YouTube, because
Yes,
it does allow people in our far flung, where we may not be actually having communications with them, but it allows them an in and a dialogue that we can have because of we put it up on YouTube. So it's another reason, along with making sure that the elders and some of the real foundations of reclaiming are not lost.
yeah. But one thing about the somatic work is that Lomi School didn't stay a school exactly per se, like Reclaiming was a collective and then it wasn't a collective. And but some of my teachers were part of the early training of somebody named Stacy Hines, who does something I think she calls generative somatics. And a lot of my younger generation clients have been involved with her work, which is not terribly different than my work, Wendy's work,
Mhm.
Jacqueline's work. I mean, it's a whole new generation
Mhm.
that does work with trauma, in with all the more knowledge that has been gained about it in the last 25 or 30 years. So that work continues. I don't know so much about it in the medical community per se, but it's definitely happening in the world, which is a great blessing because there's so much
Yes,
trauma
yes, there is. And so
happening.
much of the difficulties that we encounter come from unprocessed trauma. And
Or even process, even fairly processed trauma can still like
I partially.
set us off. And, I mean, is
Yeah,
it
yeah,
ever
yeah.
done? I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yes, yes, yes. One of the other things, there's, a few things that I want to make sure to touch on. The the way that, you're still teaching and doing groups. And so I'd like to, have a little, about how you've decided to, because of energy limitations, you're teaching mostly now online, right? But
Yes. And
but
also because of COVID. Yeah.
yes. So you're teaching online, but you do some meetings still in person, and those groups are mostly focused around dreams and the sacred stones. Do you want
They're
to?
mostly stone groups. I'm in dream groups, and that's a very big part of my life. And I do dream work with people individually, and I sometimes do it in the stone groups, but not so much because people are more committed to the stones than they are to, dream recall in particular.
It's hard for
Um,
people. I agree.
yeah, it's hard for people, and some people just then you have to have a lot of motivation if it's hard for you to start doing it and then to reap the benefits.
Yeah, I
I
love dream
mean,
work also. I'm very
yeah,
dedicated to it. I'm very
it's
dedicated to it, but I do know that it takes, you have to approach it from as many ways as to find what works for you, and people can get frustrated with it. So I understand. Yeah, I definitely understand.
well, in the core classes it comes in rites of passage,
Mhm.
and um, I'm glad that there's a place for it in the core classes.
Yes.
Um, so when I got chronic fatigue, the stones were part of what kept me as sane as I was in the beginning, which was not terribly sane, but they and they talked to me really a lot, and I got completely enthralled and enraptured with them. And studied and studied about stones and chakras and did lots of missions and did channeling, for lack of a better, I wish there was a better word somehow. Um, and I developed the Seven Gates Chakra and Gemstone Journey, which is 2 cycles, which are based on the chakras. The first one goes up the chakras and is the fountain cycle of purification and liberation. And then the second one goes down the chakras and it's the embodiment and manifestation cycle of the waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
And people, my rule of thumb is that people who do the first one don't have to do the second one, but you need to do the first one first.
Right.
And so with each chakra, there are 2 stones that I chose to go with it. So in total, there are 28 stones. And then just recently, I did another waterfall cycle because it felt like the world is falling apart and we need to embody something new and we need to bring down new information. And that took years. The Stone Creek Keepers group only meet 4 times a year. And if each chakra is a meeting, it takes a while because there's 7 and then there's an integration session. So the chakra color stone work is really my home place. And I just pull in as much of all my other interests like astrology and color and somatic practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And you mentioned briefly that you worked quite a bit with Rosie and with Pandora and with Raven, and that's actually my memory also. I remember there would always be actually we worked together at witch camps, but we never did classes locally. I remember you did quite a lot when I was coming in
Years.
with Pandora. I know Doug did a few things with you and Pandora together.
Oh, you just froze, so I didn't hear the beginning of that. So tell me what came before the word Pandora.
Oh, no, I was just saying that you had done a lot of teaching with Pandora when Pandora was still in San Francisco before she
Yeah,
left, before she
yes.
did her doctorate and left. And I was just wondering if there is anything about those classes or that experience that you'd like to talk about, or Raven too, guys. I know you did a lot of teaching with Raven Moonshadow. I remember that too. That was even before I came in.
Yeah, yeah. I just I just love them so much. Well, I remember with Pandora, we did the 3 core classes as a contained commitment where people all the way through as a group. And that was just fantastic, mostly because she was so funny. She is so funny, the funniest person, really the funniest person I know. And it was just fantastic. For that reason, I wish I had like good little stories, but I seem to not have them. I just have my feeling sense of the people.
Yeah.
And teaching with Raven was really lovely, except for the struggling part around his addiction. But other than that, it was what a spirit.
Yeah, Raven was someone
Um,
who really was part of what drew me into reclaiming as well. Raven wasn't teaching at that first witch camp I went to in Bonnie Doon in 1987, but Raven was a major presence, and he took large parts in the night rituals or the all camp rituals. Some of them were in the day, and I really got a sense of the depth of the magic that came through Raven.
mhm.
It was just really it you could fly with him, he took you with him. That's what I was saying.
Lifetimes
You
back,
could really feel him taking you with him. And I always wondered if that wasn't because he came from an unbroken tradition, and he came into reclaiming because of the creativity and
Mhm.
and all that fun things you were talking about earlier. But there was more to it before he even joined us.
Yeah,
That's kind of the way I mean, I never got to ask those questions because he died pretty quickly
yeah.
after I became, part of the collective. So, and all the difficulties around the addiction. Then one of the next interviews that I'm going to be doing is with Flame,
Uh-huh.
Dominic,
Great.
and Dominic hospiced Raven's
Yeah.
passing, and she was an amazing, she has a lot to say about Raven, and we may learn a lot more. And after that next interview, we may all learn a lot more about Raven from that next interview with Flame. Um, but yeah, another Raven is one of the people I also want to be mentioning a lot in these interviews, because it's easy for Raven because of the painful issues that came about because of the addiction and the hurtful things that happen when people are addicts. There was a sort of cutting off, and yet Raven was such an important part of
Yeah.
of the foundation of reclaiming. And so I'm also excited because Flame herself was an addict, and she got sober just before
Uh-huh.
she hospiced Raven.
Mhm.
So she'll have, I think I believe that people who've gone through it are the ones who know what needs to happen, and they also have the compassion. Because I think I'm sad that I didn't have more compassion at the time, that I wasn't there more for Raven, because, there was a money issue of stolen money for the Shanti Project. But it's like, well, it didn't go to the Shanti Project, it went to Raven's hospice. And now that I'm almost 70, that's okay.
Mhm.
That's okay. It doesn't bother me. It bothered me then because $1,000 felt like so much money then to me when I was young. But now when I look back at it, it was like it's nothing in comparison to this person and the place they held and still hold. And
Yeah.
people need to know that. That's the way I feel. People need to know that. And we all,
Yeah, I remember visiting him at the Zen hospice. Um, you know what I found? I don't know if you can see this.
yes, I can see it. I can see it. It's
So it's Raven's little book of incantation, and they're all like 4 lines long or 5 lines long, and they're rhyming, a lot of them. Maybe I'll share one.
please.
Let me, we have one, I'm not going to read this one. How to get an erection. Um, change traffic lights, stop the rain. Um, here, to become invisible.
Mhm.
Oh God, the typewriter. Uh, anyway, it's hard to see. Um, edgeful, eyeful, trifle, tree. Now weave me a spell, visibility, that no one may hear or say or see just what has become of me.
That's great.
And then to banish pesky creatures, I circle you round, I cross you within, I turn you about, I cast you out. Anyhow, there's lots of them in here. And I was just thinking, I don't know how many people still have these, but I should find a way to make them available
I think so.
generally.
What you've read is wonderful.
Maybe George Franklin can help me because
Yes, George, I'm sure George can help. I'm sure
yeah,
George can help. George
yeah,
is
because,
wonderful at the archival, everything.
yeah, I can't believe I still have it and that I found it right before this because many things have been lost.
Yes, yes. And that is so much for everyone.
Yeah.
I lost, let's see, when I lived in Hawaii, all my photographs and I had reel to reel tape of some of my dances, and
Oh,
all
yeah.
molded in
Mm.
the humidity of Hawaii.
Mm.
And all the pictures were stuck into one big mass, and it was like, oh no, this isn't
Mhm.
even possible. But yes, it is. And so yeah, we only have what we can hold on to in our hearts and heads, and through the songs and our memories. And so much of it also we didn't allow filming, you know.
Yeah, yeah, right.
And now we've come around to doing things online, so there's a whole lot more recordings of things.
Yeah,
One of the
yeah.
good, one of the good things about COVID was this movement towards accessibility online, and then the ability then to have more recordings and archival information about the tradition. And also people with different languages from different parts of the world were
Hmm.
able
Hmm.
to come in. We had a wonderful group of Venezuelans dispersed throughout the world who Templo de Bridget that started doing classes during COVID and continued, and now they're teaching, and they will become
Cool.
a Spanish speaking, presence all around the world, because they already are meeting with people from all over the world, Spanish speakers from all over the world. So there's some really exciting things that have come from some of the difficult moments, and I feel like it's another one of the reasons that I really want to have this interview with Flame to talk about addiction and, better ways that we might be able to work with our beloveds who are addicted, that we, instead of just closing the door, because there's just it's such a challenging thing. And people who, like I don't have that tendency towards addiction, so I got really upset with so many things that Raven did, and yet Raven was really, I mean, Starhawk's books, but Raven's personality and Raven's like sparkly magic was really a part of me wanting to continue, that and
Yeah.
that and the hilariousness of Rose and Star and Pandora.
Oh, the hilariousness.
Yeah, I mean,
So great.
they were just so, and also that they unapologetic about how crazy zany they all were, all their weird quirks. I mean, I think it's such a healthy, it's kind of one of my big bonds with my partner, Doug. He holds that crazy zany over the top,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
apologetic. I am this, very idiosyncratic person. That's who you're dealing with. Um, it's
With all the online stuff, I so miss doing ritual in person with
yes,
groups. They don't, for me, they don't have to be humongous groups, just groups. And I miss singing and moving together.
yes, yes, yes.
I
I
can
understand.
bring the body in online, but it is so hard to sing with people and raise energy online. It is just
Yeah, the singing,
so
I miss the
difficult.
singing, believe me,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
totally my thing. And it is really difficult to, I mean, I do my very best to record layers, layers
Hmm.
of voices, so that when we're singing with just ourselves and the recorded voices, it feels that way. But it's not the same as feeling your way into that wonderful weave
Mm,
mesh thing. Yeah, I agree. That is the
yeah.
most difficult part. And living where I live, the only way that I'm going to manage that is to have a witch camp here, which I am considering.
Oh, wow. Wow, how wonderful.
Yeah, it's a
That's
beautiful
great.
locale with perfect weather year round. And if it's not July and August, there's many, many empty places
Hmm.
that people rent cheaply, because really people own vacation rentals here for the month of July and August.
Ah,
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy and very unusual scenario. But anyway, yes, that is one of my, I'm trying to retire from my day job and in the next year or two, and be able to do that for my fun.
oh,
As
yeah.
an old geezer.
You're the glutton for punishment, aren't you? Right? Have fun. As long as you have other people to do it with,
Yeah, well, I already
you
do
can
have
fill
people
out all the different
volunteering. People are
skill
volunteering.
mosaic.
They're volunteering to organize it. So that, and
Oh, yes.
yeah, that's the important part, actually, getting that that happening, and people can just come. It is kind of an ideal locale with lots of private space where you can be in the ocean and next to the ocean and in the mountains and have fires, and yeah, it's good. It's a good magical space. Well, I want to know if there's something that I am not touched on that you would like to talk about. Um,
I
the
made a little chart, so I'm just looking at a little chart. One of the things I'm most grateful for with reclaiming or early on again, and I guess it was, well, I don't know when it was exactly, quite early on, I had a fire in my apartment in San Francisco, and it was my fault. I left a candle burning by mistake, and other people got burned out of their apartments, and my cat got harmed but lived. Um, but people like that's when I felt what it was to have a community. I mean, people helped me so much, I mean, Zebra like washed all my smoke stained clothes with baking soda, and there was a benefit from me, and Ann Hill sang, and it was, and people helped me grout out my apartment. It was people that I hardly knew as well as the people that I knew well, and it was just like I didn't have a really great family experience in my family of origin. So it was like this miraculous occurrence of, solidarity and care. Anyhow, I just wanted to say how much that touched me. And a lot of those people are not still even alive
right.
that I remember,
Mhm.
getting my really terrible kitchen stuff that I had that didn't burn, and then all my precious altar stuff did burn.
Yes.
Anyway,
I,
but
I
Circa the
remember,
cat
I
did
remember
survive.
hearing about this, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
such a, whew, yeah.
yeah. I didn't see it. I was out for 12 hours a day. That was my type A part of life when I
Yes,
was busy, 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 busy every minute.
yes,
Um,
yes.
but I'm so grateful for all the love and support over the years, and all the incredible creativity that we managed, all us weirdos managed to make together. All of us. I mean, I don't know if we're more peculiar than other people, but we certainly are a bunch of individuals. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think also I think that there was a huge social conscience and a unique way of it expressing,
Yeah.
it wasn't through uh, denying yourself, it came from a yes instead of a no. As
All acts of love and pleasure are my
yes,
rituals.
yes, yes.
Yes.
It came from
Yes.
a yes to
Yes.
queer, a yes to whatever, a yes to
Mhm.
trying out new things, a yes to failing repeatedly and not worrying about it, a yes to being who we are in all the ways that we are and not worrying about what someone else's opinion is, and also having the room to hold all that. That I think is one of the I've been in good communities. I'm in actually a lovely community here on this little island. Our choir, interestingly enough, is a fantastic community here, full
Mm.
of wild, bold women who either didn't have children or they're almost done with the whole children thing, and they're
Mhm.
leaving if there's a man at home, they leave him at home. We get a few queer men in there, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful singing, dancing, crazy, wild group of people. And I am so blessed. But yeah, I don't talk about being a witch. I read cards, but I don't talk
Mm.
about being a witch because it's a Catholic country and they know Harry Potter. but
Mhm.
but they don't really get the whole witch thing, really. But I don't think that's really anything against it either, because of I know that J.K. Rowling has done some really like crazy ass things since that, but what Harry Potter has done is normalize the word witch in the world,
To some extent,
even here in Portugal.
for younger people.
Yeah, it's in our Portuguese language teaching materials.
Hmm.
The characters of Harry Potter and the place where they have whatever where the all the stuff is. Anyway, so it is an interesting way in which not condoning anything that J.K. Rowling is doing against trans people, but it did something to make the word less loaded, I guess is what I would say, to people who have no idea what we're actually doing. So anyway, it took some of the shock factor out of it, I think. Yeah,
There
unfortunately.
is one thing that this makes me think of is that, in the dream work that I do, I've also been very influenced by the work of Carl Jung,
Mhm.
and not the process of integrating the shadow. And I also was what drew me to magic was that, or to this sort of magic, because the dark is as important as the light.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing all these deep rivers that were very much um, co-created by you in those early years of reclaiming, and I'm so grateful to have you here with me today.
Yeah, it's so lovely to do this, and it's been so great. It was so great to see Lauren and Pat, and I'm looking forward to Flame. And yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. Um, Thank you for
Yeah, thank
doing this.
you.
Thank you for doing this.
Thank you, my love.
We are your people, join us. 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 We are the old ones, join us.